Perfect. Now we are recording. Okay. I am so happy to be back. This week is the week we start a new quarter, so things are a little bit nutty, but I've just determined that my life is always just a bit nutty, and that's just we had a very, very busy weekend with sports. On Saturday, we had all three for Peyton, my oldest. He did soccer in the morning, and then he had baseball midday, and then he had BMX at night, and it was just go, go, go. But it was really cool because he got to do on Sunday, he got to meet and work with Connor Fields, who was an Olympic BMXer. He won the Olympics. He's a gold medalist from 2016. And if you watched the Summer Olympics this last summer, he was the one who got in that huge accident, had a concussion, and he was out for 5 days. And it was really just like an unfortunate event. Anyway, he came up from California to work with the kids on Sunday. And it was incredible. Just such a nice guy, and full of knowledge, as you might guess. You don't get to the Olympics on just luck alone. So it was a fantastic day. Just a really busy weekend though. Thankfully, y'all, the soccer ends this week for one and next week for the other. So hopefully I'll get some time back, because running 3 sports at once is kind of killing me a little bit. All right, I'm trying to get into my own Facebook on my phone to make sure I'm not missing comments there, but I am not having success. So if you see anything on Facebook and I miss it, I am so sorry. Okay, so this should be pretty fast. So macros and how to set them. I'm sure that you've heard of the term. It's kind of like, it's been an it term for a little while now as far as weight loss goes. Macros have been around since forever. If you've been a professional athlete or have followed the diets of any professional athlete, they all have macros assigned to them based on their needs. And then they kind of monetized this idea with this "if it fits your macros" diet. So it kind of inched its way into the world of dieting, as anything food related tends to do, because it's just an industry that's ready to pounce on anything that can make money. Sorry, I changed the setup in here and I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about what they are and how to set them for yourself, if that's something that you want to do. I will go into this completely openly, in that I don't feel like most people need to focus on these types of numbers. Most people really don't need to be so worried about all of their macro numbers. They don't have to, you don't have to fret or stress over them. There's really only one macro that all of us should be more concerned with over the others. It's no secret to you, that's protein. You know how important protein is at this point, but we'll go through them, and I put an example together with my own self on how I would set my own macros. If anybody has questions on how to set their own macros, the one thing to keep in mind though is that macros are so individual. It has so much to do with your lifestyle and your body composition, and some genetics play a role. So there's no like across the board, this is what all macros should look like. Everybody should play around with these numbers to see how they feel for you, if that's something that you want to do. But again, most people, unless you're a professional athlete or you're somebody who's doing like an aesthetics type bikini competition or bodybuilder type thing, most people don't need to fret over these numbers by any means. Okay, so let's jump into it then. So we're going to talk about what they are, and then we'll talk about how to set them, and then we'll go through the example, and hopefully those will be pretty fast. Macros are just short for macronutrients. It's the nutrients that we need in large quantities. Macro means large. Okay, they provide our bodies with the energy that we need to do all the things that we do, with all of our inner functions, just the energy that we need to move around. There are 3 macros: protein, of course, and fats, and carbs. Okay, so those are our 3 macronutrients that provide our bodies energy. And then these are all supported, of course, by nutrients and minerals that we don't eat in as large quantities, but are necessary to keep our bodies functioning. But the 3 macronutrients are protein, fats, and carbs. Okay, so let's go through those really fast. Proteins are essential. If something is essential to us, it means we have to get it through dietary means. We have to consume it. We have to eat it. Proteins are something that some of them we can actually make within our bodies. Our bodies do produce them, but some of them absolutely we cannot. And that's what essential means, that we have to eat these proteins in our diet in order for our body to use them in the way that they need to be used. A little note here is that there are 4 calories per gram of protein, and they are the building blocks of life. And they aid in digestion, they grow and repair our body tissue, they make hormones, they boost the immune system, they build muscle, they're an energy source. Okay, proteins are incredibly important to the functioning of our bodies. Okay, and of course, you know how they come: meat and poultry, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, dairy, soy, quinoa, buckwheat. These are just some examples of where we can get proteins. I didn't put nuts on this list because I put nuts on the fats list. One thing you'll note is that most foods are not just one macro. They contain a variation or a variety of proteins, fats, and carbs, which is one reason why counting macros can be a little tedious and sometimes a little bit overwhelming. So if you are one who's really stringent about your macro numbers, or you have to be because you're a professional athlete, then you have to be very careful with the types of foods that you're choosing, because most foods have a little bit of everything in them. Not most, but a lot of them do. Okay. Fats are also essential. Okay, again, essential means we have to consume these in order for our bodies to get what they need so they can function properly. So we can't make all of the fats that we need for the functions in our body. We have to consume fats through diet. They are higher calories per gram, they're 9 calories per gram, and this is our body's protector. And when our body goes into safe mode, when our body is feeling uneasy, it starts storing fat in times of, it's one of those things that it likes to store fat if things are not going well, so that they can use this fat later. It's also an insulator, right? It keeps us warm. It's one of our biggest energy sources. It is incredibly important for producing and supporting hormones. It's in the cell membranes to provide structure. It's cholesterol. It supports our nervous system. It's necessary to transport the fat-soluble vitamins around through our body so that those fat-soluble vitamins can get to the cells when they need them. It's an insulator for our body. That's really, really important. Okay, and examples are beef. Beef is like a fattier cut of meat. Poultry with the skin, right? The skin part is the part that's giving you most of that fat. Coconut oil or butter, egg yolks, avocado, olive oil, seeds. I didn't put nuts on there. Nuts also a good source of fat. Okay, and then our third macronutrient is carbs, and this is non-essential. Okay, so maybe contrary to popular belief, we don't actually need carbs in our diet. We can survive just fine without them. Our body has the ability to make glucose from fats and proteins. Okay, so if we never ate another carb a day in our life, we would go on living just fine. Okay, but it is our body's priority in terms of fuel source. So if you feed yourself both fats and carbs, it will prioritize the carbs for fuel first, because it's easier for us to digest and it's easier to break down and use as energy. Okay. So it's one of our main energy sources. It is really important with muscle recovery and important with our digestive health, because fiber is a carb. So fiber keeps things moving along. And like I said, healthy bodies don't need them, but that's not to say that we shouldn't have them. Okay, there's a difference between being able to sustain without something and being better with something. Okay, so there's a lot of arguments out there that optimal bodies might need carbs, even though they're not essential, which means we can be fine without them. We can flourish just fine without them, but we can be better with them. And again, there's an evolutionary reason for that. There's an evolutionary reason for almost everything that our body needs. So for us, we've always been hunters. So we have always been able to get animal sources that contain protein and fats. Whereas gathering was very seasonal, being able to get vegetables or berries, which are carb sources, those weren't something that we could always get our hands on. So our body adapted to be able to be fine without a carb, but carbs are very helpful in other ways, especially in terms of muscle recovery and stress management. Okay. So examples, the good ones: fruits, veggies, whole grains, and then I put breads, pastas, and refined sugars in little parentheses, because those are the ones that we maybe don't want to consume too much of. Of course, if you're doing breads, doing like a whole grain and a whole grain pasta. But fruits, veggies, and whole grains are really where we want to get those are like our healthy carbs. And carbs are 4 calories per gram, just like protein. So protein and carbs are 4 calories per gram, and fats are 9 calories per gram. And the only reason I bring that up is because we need to know those numbers for us to be able to set our macros when we decide what our macros are going to be. Okay, so we need to know that. So just some basic facts about these 3 macros. Proteins to prevent deficiency. So to prevent yourself from getting into some trouble, and having some functional issues with your body, we need about 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight. This is not the optimal amount. This is the minimal amount that you should be consuming every single day to avoid deficiency. And this is for somebody who's sedentary. Okay, so these are for people who don't have a lot of muscle or don't need a lot of strength. They live a fairly sedentary life. Maybe they have desk jobs. So this is the recommendation for just preventing deficiency, which again, this is not optimal. Most people want much more than that. Like if you are even if you're slightly active, like improving or increasing your activity even by just a little bit, this to prevent deficiency, this jumps up to about 0.6 grams per pound of body weight. And when I say per pound of body weight, this is per pound of desired body weight. So if you're somebody who's trying to maybe cut weight, then you want to use your desired weight. If you're somebody who's trying to gain weight or gain strength or gain muscle, then you would use your desired body weight. Again, that's not optimal. So what you want to do is you want to aim for 0.7 to 1.2 grams per pound for your body to work at optimal. There's been a lot of studies about how to optimize our bodies. And they all come back with this range, about 0.7 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of desired body weight. And when you're finding sources to provide you with protein, you want to seek real sources of protein first. So the meats and the dairies and the soys and the quinoas. You only want to supplement with protein powder or with like protein supplement bars or something. You only want to do that if you're really struggling to meet your protein goal with real food. And there are reasons why people struggle to meet their protein goal with real food, because it can be protein's very filling, right? So some people just have a hard time eating a lot of it because you get full and you're just like, oh, I can't eat another bite. So if you are somebody who's having a hard time hitting your protein goal, then maybe seek out a good protein powder or, protein bar or something. But the goal is to get all of your protein from real sources. Okay. Now, how do you set that? That 0.7 to 1.2 grams per pound, that really depends on a few things. It depends on your body composition. If you are already fairly muscular and you're hoping to support your muscles that you already have, then you're going to want to be on the higher end of that. Okay. So if you already have a muscular composition that you're hoping to hold on to, then you're going to be on the higher end of that. If you're more of an endurance type person, if you're a long distance runner, then you're going to be on the shorter end of that. Now, why? Because muscle is very expensive to maintain. So your body has a very difficult time maintaining a lot of muscle and also being somebody who can do a lot of endurance type activity. And so for you would want to be maybe at the lower end of that. And most people start when they're setting their macros. If you're not like a professional athlete or anything, most people start about 1 gram per pound of desired body weight. That's a very common place to start, and then adjust as necessary. If you're not hitting that consistently, then you can try to adjust your macros after that. If you're feeling like you're not getting enough support in the strength, if you're trying to build muscle, then you can bump it up. But most people are about 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight, and that works well for a lot of people. That is always the thing that you're going to set first. Okay, proteins of the 3 macronutrients are by far and away the most important macronutrient. If you can consistently hit your protein goal, you are doing yourself so much, like so good. It's it's difficult for a lot of people to hit their protein goals once they start setting them properly. In the beginning, it can seem like a lot of protein, and then you kind of get into the swing of things, and you can get into some, get some consistency with what you're eating and get into the flow of things. But that should always be your primary macro. That's the one that the studies are so clear about protein and how important it is. There's a lot of conflicting information about fats and carbs and the teeter-totter situation with those. There's a lot of studies that support high fat, low carb. There's a lot of studies that, that support high carb, low fat, but all of them will say protein first. Okay, so that should always be your priority. If you're really trying to follow macros, protein should always be your priority. Once you set your proteins, once you figure out if you're going to be whatever number you are, between 0.7 to 1.2. Again, it completely depends on your body composition and your lifestyle. What sort of lifestyle do you lead? If it's very active, you're going to be on the higher end of that. If it's not as active, you'll be on the lower end of that. Okay, then you're going to set your fats. Fats is the second macronutrient that you're going to want to set. Why? Well, because proteins and fats are the essential ones. Those are the ones that we have to get in our diets in order for our bodies to function properly. So you need to make sure that you're getting both of those so that your body can function properly. Okay, so protein first, and then set your fats. Now, this is an incredible range. Okay, you want this to be somewhere between 20 and 70% of your overall calories. And that depends on, again, lifestyle and desired body composition. Like 70% is the classic keto diet. If you're doing a classic keto diet, 70% of your daily calories will come from fats. Okay, 20% is more endurance athletes actually want to consume less fat. It's the bikini competition, like the aesthetic type people are going to be lower end of fats. But there are some studies to suggest that life longevity, correlates with percentage of fats that you eat, the percentage of diet that you're fatted, or the percentage of fats that your diet is. There we go. That if you're in a higher range of daily fats, that you actually live longer. And that makes sense too, because remember that fats was our macronutrient that protects our body. Okay, so if we're making sure that we're staying in a safe place and our bodies are being taken care of, then it makes sense to me that would be correlated with a longer lifespan. The other thing to take into consideration is that females, we need more support for our hormone profile, right? And I'm sure that most men would agree with that. Right? We can even feel it, like when we're going through our cycle of the month, we can feel when things are off, right? That's our hormones playing all sorts of fun games with us. So females need a higher intake of fats. In fact, I would recommend that no female anyway, go under 30% of their calories from fat. We need the fats to support our hormones and to help balance those out. If you've been through menopause, or you're perimenopausal, or you're postmenopausal, so you've gone through some hormone changes, you want even higher percentage, again, because fats are really supportive of our hormone profile, and they're really important for stabilizing our hormones. So females, especially those who've been through menopause, should aim to have a higher percentage of fats in their diet. Okay? And that's the second thing you're gonna set. And then carbs. The last one, there's no optimal range for carbs. They don't have one. And there's it's a non-essential macronutrient, so we don't actually need to consume them to flourish. So there's no optimal range, but once you set your proteins and once you set your fats, the remaining calories that you have, again, we'll do an example here in just a minute. The remaining calories left are the calories that will be dedicated to your carbs. Okay, so that's how we do it. You set your proteins first. That's always the most important macronutrient. Then you set your fats, and then you're going to set your carbs. And carbs, if you're like a strength training, if you're doing resistance training where you're one who needs more power, maybe your job site requires a lot of strength, you're going to want more carbs. If you're somebody who lives a high stress lifestyle. I talked about this in our carb talk, but carbs actually help balance out the cortisol that's created when we're going through any amount of stress. And that's stress in both the physical and the psychological sense. So if you're somebody who's just super stressed out all the time, you actually might want to set your carbs a little bit higher too, to help offset the cortisol that's being released because of the stress. But that's the last thing that we said. So protein first. Protein's always your first priority, and then fats, and then your carbs. So let's figure out how to set them then. So yeah, there's some math in here, but honestly, there's so many websites out there that do this for you. So if you don't want to go through the equation, you can just Google the Harris-Benedict formula for BMR. And there's so many sites, you just put in your height and weight. But here's the formula to set your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. Okay. And this gives you just the basis of the calories that you need to go throughout your life. So this is not intentional exercise. This is just the calories that you need to sustain to do basic movement and to have your system still functioning properly. So this is just an estimate for you. So it's 4.55 times your weight in pounds plus 15.88 times your height in inches minus 5 times your age in years. And then if you're a man, you're going to add 5 more. And if you're a woman, you're going to subtract 161. This is just the formulas that their most recent formula that they're using to estimate. Men in general, the reason why they're a little bit different between men and women is that men in general have more muscle. And as we talked about, muscle is more expensive to maintain. So since men in general have a higher muscle mass than women, they generally need more calories for their BMR. Okay, so that's why there's a difference there. Okay, so once you've calculated your BMR, whether you use this or you just go on to an online calculator, then you have to pick an appropriate, this is called an intensity multiplier. And this is what we're going to use to estimate your total daily expenditure. So remember, BMR is just your basic amount of calories necessary to sustain, but that doesn't include intentional movements or stress levels or anything like that. So what we have to do is we have to kind of analyze or assess our own lifestyles and decide how intense is our life. And I know that we're all like, oh my gosh, it's so intense, but like really, how stressed out are you? How much do you move throughout the day? How many times, do a week do you have intentional exercise? How much do you move for your job? Okay, so yeah. And I think that Victoria says, I can't decide which. I think that this is almost one of the hardest parts about setting your macros. It's like, I don't know how much. So 1.2, so your number is going to range between 1.2 and 2. 1.2 is sedentary. You don't have a whole lot of stress, desk job, you don't move a lot. 1.3 to 1.4 is you train 1 to 3 times a week, but not heavily, not intensely. Or maybe you have some stress in your life, but you tend to manage it well. Okay, 1.5 to 1.6 is moderate exercise, maybe a little more intense, or maybe you just train more often, and you have a moderate amount of stress in your life. 1.7 and 1.8, very active, you train all the time, or you're dealing with a lot of stress all of the time. And then 1.9 to 2 is that you are training multiple times a day, you're putting your body through a whole heck of a lot, or you're overwhelmed all the time, super stressed out from, the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. There's just never a time to rest in between, or some combination of. Okay, so you have to decide, and it can be like, a very common one is like 1.55. I think that's the one I ended up using. It can be any number. It doesn't have to be like 1 decimal. Like 1.35 is used a lot. 2.5. You work out too much and you're overly stressed. Oh, Victoria, you cracked me up. Yeah, so this is, you have to really assess, like, do you have stress? Sure, everybody has stress, but how well do you manage that stress? If you're not managing it very well, then your number is probably going to be a little bit higher. Okay. If you're one who moves intentionally a lot throughout the week, maybe yours is a little bit higher. But this is the part that you have to be a little objective about yourself. Like, how intense is your life right now? And then choose your intensity multiplier based on that. So once you have your intensity multiplier and you have your BMR from the Harris-Benedict formula that we just looked at, so you get your BMR, then you multiply them, okay? And that is your estimate for your total daily expenditure, energy expenditure. And this is just an estimate for daily caloric expenditure. Our caloric needs change every single day. They change hour by hour, depending on what we're doing. So it's impossible to say that you need the same amount of calories every single day. This is a game of averages. When we're talking about macros and calories and movement and all, it's a game of averages, okay? So this is just saying on average, how many calories do you need to sustain your current state? That's what your total daily energy expenditure is. Okay, so step 1, Harris-Benedict formula to calculate your BMR. Step 2, multiply that by your intensity factor, which is some number between 1.2 and 2, depending on how stressful or how busy your life is. And you have to choose your goal. Okay, once you have your TDE, if you want to lose weight, you'll subtract about 300 from that. You can subtract up to 500 from that, but you have to be very careful. If you are trying to aim for weight loss and you go too far under your TDE, you will put yourself in a metabolic adaptation, which is not at all what you want to do. It slows your entire body down and it will not give you the results you want. So you have to be very careful with how much you're taking off of your TDE. If you take off too much, it puts your body into stress. And here's the thing about your bodies, it will not release fat if it doesn't feel safe. So if you calculate your TDE and it's like 2100, and then you decide that you're going to set your everyday calorie at 1200, your body will be so stressed out, it will refuse to give up the weight. Oh, love you, honey. Are you going, Nene? All right, bye. My youngest just came in and blew me a kiss. So be very careful if you're going into weight loss mode. Don't take off too much, right? The range is typically 300 is a great place to start. Don't go any more than 500 because you risk just screwing up your body and you don't want to do that. Maintenance, of course, is just don't change it. That if your TDE is at a certain number, then just consume about that every day and your body will be fine. If you're trying to gain weight or you're trying to gain strength, then you'll take that number and add 300. Again, you can add up to 500, but you have to be careful because if you start consuming far more than your body needs, then instead of using it in the way that you want it to, it's just going to start storing all the excess as fat. So if you start eating too much too quickly, then you're going to see changes in your body that are probably more fat-based than muscle-based, which is not what typically people want. Okay, so calculate your TDE and then choose your goal. If you want to lose weight, subtract 300, and that's what you're going to want to eat every single day. If you're maintenance, then that number is what you're going to aim for every day. And if you want to gain weight, then you're going to add 300 to that, and that's what you're going to try to aim for every single day. Okay. Again, I don't necessarily think that most people need this, but it's kind of a fun little process to go through if it's something you're interested in. Okay, so then once you know that, then you have to set your protein. Okay, so once you know your daily caloric goal, which is what you get by finding your BMR, multiplying it by your intensity factor, adding, subtracting, or 300, or keeping it the same, then you're going to set your protein always first. That's that number that you're going to choose between 0.7 and 1.2. Okay, and that's going to be totally based on your current body composition and your lifestyle and your goals. Okay, so for example, if your current body composition is less muscle and more fat and you're trying to build muscle, you're going to want to be a little bit higher. Like I said, most people, about 1 gram per pound of desired body weight is a good place to start. Okay. If you're somebody who's very active, you're probably going to want that to be a little bit higher to support the muscle. Step 5 is to set your fats, and that's that number you have to choose between 20 and 70% of your total caloric allotment, which is what we found with our TDE plus or minus 300, or just your TDE if you're at maintenance. Again, this is so personal. Some people thrive on higher fat diets. Some people's bodies do not tolerate high fat diets very well at all. They just don't have enough bile to emulsify, or maybe they don't have a gallbladder to store the bile, so they can't emulsify. If you play around with these numbers and you set yourself with a higher fat percentage and notice that you've got uncomfortable bowel movements or you're going to the bathroom far too much, you might want to back off that percentage. So this is one of those things that's very personal. It's also genetics. Some people just cannot tolerate high fat diets, and some people absolutely thrive off high fat diets. So choose something in between. Again, if you're not sure where to start, a good starting point is about 40%. Okay, about 40% of your daily calories coming from fat is a great place to start. Okay, and then you can adjust from there. If you feel like you're getting energy crashes, then you might want to actually bump that up. Okay, if you're finding that, woof, my bathrooms are not feeling good, then you might want to back out of that a little bit. If you're not sure where to start about 40%. And then finally, you know the calories from step 4 and you know the calories from step 5. The rest of them will then be allocated to carbs. Okay, and if you've set your protein and your fats appropriately, then your carbs will be automatically appropriate for your lifestyle as well. So let's go through an example. I know this might seem a little bit confusing. It's really not so bad. Once you know your daily caloric goal, breaking them into their macros isn't that difficult. I just used myself as an example because it was an easy example. I'm 5'4", I'm about 150 pounds, 35, and I'm female. Okay, so I calculated using the Harris-Benedict formula. I calculated that my BMR was about 1362. I gave myself an intensity factor of 1.5. I train about 4 times a week. I have a high stress job and I have a high stress household. So I felt like 1.5 was pretty good. Most of my stress is maybe psychological, not necessarily physical. But I felt like 1.5 was pretty good. So that gave me a total daily energy expenditure of about 2,100 calories. I used nice round numbers. I don't think there's any reason to differentiate here by 11 calories, so nice round numbers, I rounded to 2,100 calories. Now I can tell you, so if I was like, I personally am just looking for maintenance. I don't want to lose weight at this point. So I'm going to allow myself 2,100 calories per day. I can tell you already though, because I've experimented with my calories so much that my TDEE is actually higher than that. I can consume a lot more than 2,100 calories and not see any adjustments in my weight. The reason is because I've worked on my metabolism so much that I have a roaring metabolism. So for me, even though this is a great starting point, allowing 2,100 calories, I know that I can eat more than that and still maintain. But that's okay. This is not, again, it's not a perfect science. It's something that we play around with. So using these calculations to maintain my current stature, I can eat 2,100 calories a day. Okay, so that's the number that I'm going to be working with, 2,100 calories a day. So first thing is we're going to set my proteins. 1 gram per pound is pretty good. It's a pretty good place to start. So that puts me at about 150 grams. So 1 gram times 150, which is my current weight, is 150 grams of protein. That's every day. Now, I would love for that number to be higher, honestly, because I would love to be able to gain muscle, but I already know that reaching 150 grams of protein, of real protein sources for me a day, is pretty difficult. So I'm not willing, right? So this is that thing, you have to figure out what you're willing and able to do. I'm not able to eat more than 150 grams consistently of protein a day. It's a lot of protein for me. So 1 gram per pound of protein works really well for my lifestyle. If you're somebody who's looking to gain muscle and have no problem with eating a lot of protein a day, then maybe you can push yourself a little bit more, about 1.1, 1.2. Again, it's totally lifestyle dependent. This would be another thing where, like, I don't use protein powders. It's just personal preference. I really prefer to get my protein from real sources. This would be a situation, however, if I were really trying to gain a lot more muscle, if I were really serious about it, I would probably I would need a protein powder to help me get my grams up. Because like I said, 150 is about my limit. Now that the idea of like how many calories per gram comes into play now, because I'm supposed to be eating 150 grams of protein a day. So how many calories is that? Well, I'm going to multiply that by 4 to give me how many calories I'm getting per day from protein. So I'm getting about 600 calories from protein. Okay. Okay, so I set my protein. So, and that's the biggest goal. Honestly, your protein is your number 1 goal. The rest of it, however it plays, But if you can hit your protein goals, the studies are very clear that that is the biggest supporter of your weight maintenance or weight loss. Sorry, come here, Zuki. Do you want to see? I was going to show him. No, it's okay. Now she's scared. Sorry. Sorry, the dogs push open the door and we have this puppy who's driving me batty, but that's okay. She's at least cute. Okay, so protein about 150 grams a day, which is 600 calories. Then we set our fats, and I chose higher. 50% of my calories I chose to be from fats. And remember, it's between 20 and 70%. I chose 50 because I know I can tolerate a high fat diet really well. I don't have any negative repercussions from that. So I feel grateful in that way. But I also know that I prefer fattier cuts of meat. So my protein sources, I get a lot of like ground beef or fattier cuts of steak, bacon. I'm a huge bacon eater. So I already know that my preference is towards higher fat foods. So I'm going to allow myself more calories from fat so that I can enjoy, because remember, here's the thing, when you're making these macros, again, if you're not a professional athlete or somebody who's like an aesthetic type model, you need to make them fit your lifestyle too, your preferences. If you don't want to give yourself a high fat diet, if you don't like a lot of fat, that wouldn't make any sense for you, right? But for me, I do. So 50% of my daily calories, so 0.5 times, remember we had calculated the calories to be 2,100, so that's about 1050. Now we know that fats are 9 calories per gram. So if I want to get how many grams I need of fat per day, I just divide that by 9, and that gives me 116 grams of fat when I rounded. I think I just rounded down. Okay. So now I know that I've got 600 calories are allocated for protein, and 1,050 calories are allocated for my fats, which means the remaining calories, which is 450, I can have 450 calories of carbs per day. And so I know carbs are 4 calories per gram. So to get how many grams of carbs I need a day, I'll just take 450 divided by 4. So that's 100 grams of carbs. So my current prescription, if I were prescribing one to myself, would be 150 grams of protein a day, would be 116 grams of fat per day, and 120 grams of carbs per day. Okay, so this is, if I were creating a diet for myself, based on macros, this is what it would be. The breakdown percentages for my diet then would be 29% of my diet is protein, 50% of my diet is fat, and 21% of my protein is carbs. And the only reason I include that is because sometimes if you look up macro-based diets, they'll give you a percentage cut, like a 30, 30, 40 or something. And then they're talking about how many of your calories are allocated per macro, okay? Now, in full transparency, I do not count macros. The only thing I ever look at is protein, because that's really what matters. Okay, so if I'm hitting my protein goal every day, I'm pretty happy with that. I don't care about how the rest of it falls. So that's how it would work on somebody like me. Now, let's say I'm going through this and I'm feeling like fatigued, right? If I'm feeling fatigued during my workouts, I'm going to want to adjust my fat carb ratio, okay? Or if I feel like I am not recovering very well, let's say I do a big lift session and I'm just sore for days on end. That means that I'm taking a longer time to recover. I should probably bump up my carbs and take that out of fats, right? So this is where you have to experiment with your lifestyle. If it's not working, start making some adjustments, okay? So, right, if I'm not recovering, or like I recognize like I'm having sleep issues, okay, well, if I'm having sleep issues, I'm gonna want to adjust that and get some more carbs into my diet as well. So here are some common starting places. If you're like, Amber, I have no idea what my split should be. A lot of that has to do with, I've had to bump up carbs a lot. Yeah, that's interesting. Have you been able to identify why? Are you just having like energy deficiencies? More training. Yeah, you have been running a lot. Yeah. So that's the other thing, is that endurance, you can even see here. So you're an endurance runner, and endurance runners need more carbs for recovery. So that makes a whole bunch of sense for me. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So you see that even like endurance conditioning or power training, and then strength training You can see the differences in the typical splits for those types of people. If you are just kind of trying to like find a healthy lifestyle, most people fit to start their macros right there in that middle for that conditioning power. When you're trying to just get your body into a place where it feels good, starting at a 30-30-40 split is a really good place to start. So getting 30% of your calories from your protein, and then 30% for fats, and then 40% for carbs, and then adjusting otherwise. If you are an endurance type runner like Victoria is, she needs more carbs to help with her recovery and to help get her through those long runs and to maintain her energy level. She doesn't need as much protein because she's not building the muscle, and so she doesn't need as much support for those muscles in terms of building go. Whereas if you're a strength trainer or you're trying to build muscle, you can see that that percentage of protein goes up. You need more protein and you need more fats to support your hormones while you're putting your body under so much duress, and the carbs are not as important in that case. So if you're one of those people like, I don't know where to start yourself with a 30-30-40 split, and then start making adjustments from there. Like I said, the one that I just had, let's see if I can get back to it. The split that I just had prescribed myself was a 29-50-21 split. Right, so that's kind of similar, I guess, too. I mean, it's actually right in the middle of endurance and strength, or well, no, it's not any of those. It more aligns with the strength, which makes sense because I've been trying to work on my strength lately, which means that when I go on that endurance run with you, Victoria, I'm going to be so screwed. It's going to be such a hard. Oh no. But it'll be fine. I'll just power through it, right? And just be super sore the next day. Anyway, does anybody have any questions for me about it, about how to set them? Or yeah, I always eat the apples anyway. Yeah, I'll be fine. I'm actually not concerned about it because I'm so good at working through pain that I just feel like I'll die after. It'll be okay. I'll hold off on the dying until after. But if you're interested in setting macros, if that's something that's of interest to you, feel free to just send me a message and I'll be happy to help you figure that out. I do think that it requires a lot of counting that most people don't necessarily want to do. The cool thing though is that if you have something like MyFitnessPal, if you use MyFitnessPal, it breaks up your macros for you. So you can see the percentage that you're eating. So if it's something that you're truly interested in, getting like MyFitnessPal and tracking your food that way, which is fairly user friendly. And if I can use it, I feel like anybody can, because I'm a bit of a tech dumb person. But it breaks down all that for you. So you don't even have to track it. All you have to do is scan in your food for the day. And then MyFitnessPal will tell you what your splits are, which is super convenient. But I don't think, I don't think most people need to be too stringent about it. Honestly, if you can hit your protein goals, you'll be solid. You'll be golden. So, oh my gosh, I said it was going to be short and it was still not short. I tried. It was under an hour, so I'll take it. All right, I will get this on YouTube and get it posted to Facebook. And again, if you have any questions about your specific macros, I'm happy to help guide you in that. So just send me a message. We can figure out what they are for you. Okay, I think, did I stop share? I'm not really sure. Oh man. All right, everybody have a great night. If you need anything, feel free to message me. And yeah, until next time, eat more, guys, eat well, eat happy. I'll see you later. Bye.